Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, I'm V, the Florida coordinator for the East Coast Greenway Alliance, and welcome to our first ever virtual Southeast Greenway and Trail Summit. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to say a brief thank you before we get started to all our summit sponsors. You know, a lot of work has gone into the summit, and we would not have been able to do it without them. I'm very, very excited to introduce this next session, Helping Communities Through Bicycle Tourism. A great Florida partner, Bike Florida's Executive Director, Joy Hancock, will be taking us away on this session. So hang tight, and here we go. My bad, sorry, Joy.
That's all right.
All right, hold on. Maybe I just
No, you're
redo
fine.
that because I totally forgot I had to.
Yeah. No, you're cool.
Dang it. All right, I'm just gonna redo that whole thing. I can't believe I forgot that. All right.
Are we good? You're good? I mean, I can take
Uh,
over.
And
Okay.
I'm just
All
going
right.
to do the brief thing again because I
Okay.
can just trim up until this point that I messed everything up.
And I'm not on what's it called? I'm not like on screen, am I?
No, I can see
Okay.
you, but nobody else can see you.
Okay. All right. That's good because then I can read notes without looking like I'm looking somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
no, you're good. All right. All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and hello. I'm V, the Florida coordinator for the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Welcome to our first ever virtual Southeast Greenway and Trails Summit. Before we begin, I'd like to say thank you to our summit sponsors. The summit work that has gone on would not have been able to happen without them. I'm excited to introduce this next session, Helping Communities Through Bicycle Tourism, with a wonderful Florida partner, Joy Hancock, Executive Director of Bike Florida. I'm actually going to pull up her presentation, so bear with me 1 second. All right, thank you so much, Joy. It's all you.
Okay, thank you, V, for the introduction, and thank you for having me at this great conference. And I am sorry that we weren't able to do it in person, but I'm very excited that we can still do it even virtually. And later in my presentation, I will be covering a bit about our current brave new world that we are in. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bike Florida and who we are and what we've been doing. So my name is Joy Hancock. I'm the executive director of Bike Florida. I have been with the organization since late 2014. And I am not an I'm not a Florida native. I'm an Oklahoma native, but absolutely love living in Florida. And we live near Clearwater and just couldn't be happier to be here. So at Bike Florida, our mission is to help Florida communities improve their economic health, bicycle infrastructure, and safety through bicycle tourism. And the next slide, if you can't, okay. And what that means is, well, this is actually a new mission that we have taken on this last year, which has resulted in a lot of changes in our organization and what we do. Historically, Bike Florida was an event company, for lack of a better word, that we would put on a week-long bicycle tour once a year in Florida. It would be camping only. And we started this in 1994. In 2010, we started to conduct economic impact surveys of our events because, as I said, there were about 600 people riding their bicycles around Florida for a week, eating food, spending money on beer, flights, hotels, etc. And we wanted to know how we were impacting our host communities. And so, V, if you could pull up the next slide, the results of these studies that we did showed that we had a cumulative impact of just under $7,700,000 in that roughly 10-year period. And this was huge because we didn't really know that we had that amazing impact over just these 1-year events one-year events a year with 600 people. And so we were wondering how or what would happen if we were able to take that and impact the state as a whole. Because with a very, very small staff, all of the time and energy and resources that are needed to put into 1 week-long event for 600 people riding around the state, changing campsites, insurance, police officers, there's a lot of coordination and logistics, and we just didn't have time to do anything else. So when these numbers came back to us, we realized that we could be doing even more for our state if we had the ability to do more events and expand our reach. One interesting thing that we figured out too is with a positive impact over 10 years, $7,700,000, that comes out to 5,500 people riding for 2.5 consecutive months. So we were wondering what sort of impact would there be if 19 million of our Florida residents or 127 million of our Florida visitors were to be going on a bicycle tour. And when you really think about it, the numbers and that sort of impact and the dollars that come in is phenomenal. So let's do the next slide, V. We then took a look at and did some research about the economic impact nationwide and globally. And this is another really interesting thing that we really didn't know very much about. And we found these numbers from the Adventure Cycling Association website. There was an outdoor travel industry did a study in 2017, but they found that just from bicycling alone, there is an $83 billion annual economic impact, creates 848,000 jobs and adds about $200 billion of money straight into the economy. So this is huge. Bicycle tourism is huge, and it has such a big positive effect on the places that it goes to. But we were wondering, how is it that this is happening and our organization is just barely getting along by a shoestring? And why were we, again, not able to do more if the industry of bicycle tourism was really this big? And therefore we started asking ourselves a lot of questions. So then we decided to do even more research, and we can do the next slide, V. The global adventure tourism market, so this includes bicycling, but this is everything, was valued at about $590 billion in 2018, and they're predicting that by 2026 it'll be $1,600 billion, which is insane. That is an insane amount of money. But our experience, again, was we were losing participants at our tour. Our costs were increasing, but the amount of expendable cash that our participants had was decreasing. We were wondering what exactly was the story behind this. And then we thought, well, actually, we've been around a pretty long time. And our median age of our cohort was 64. So we started seeing this pattern that maybe what we are doing is starting to get a little outdated. So here's some examples. And we'll do the next slide. So if any of you are old enough to remember Blockbuster and the Be Kind and Rewind requests that they always had in VCRs, this used to be our home entertainment. And I'm not sure when Blockbuster went out of business, but it was a while ago. But yeah, 1994, that is where you went to go get your movies to watch at home. Today, we have Netflix. Now, all of you know what Netflix is, or Prime Video. You don't even have to step outside of your home to watch a movie. You don't need a VCR. You don't need a DVD player. So it's all at our fingertips. It has changed so much in these 25 years. Then there is me in 1994. I'm here, that's my little brother that's with me, and we were at a music festival, actually. But, I was, I think it was 14 at the time, and I loved Nirvana, and I can't believe I look that young. And so here is me today when in Key West, after my husband and I went on a trip there. And to think about the person I was 25 years ago and the person today, it is pretty much a different person. So then we take a look at outdoor recreation in 1994. First thing we've got to say is outdoor recreation in 1994 had the best fashion ever. Love this woman's outfit. I love the glasses. But this was the height of the marathoning world. So this is when everybody was doing marathons, and really no other outdoor events for just the common person were being done. Now, as times have changed, people are going away from the marathon and they're doing something like a half marathon, but really it's these adventure obstacle course, mud run events that are really drawing people in. And they are far more popular than marathons and bike tours and anything you can imagine. This is really what people want to do. I don't understand why, but this is what they want to do. And one interesting fact is when the color run, and if you remember when the color run was in its heyday, it was this run where you would run a course and people had colored powder that they would throw at you, and you wore these white t-shirts. So your t-shirt had all these different colors at the end of it. And that race or that event was so popular that at one point you could not find white t-shirts in the United States because every single one had been purchased for color runs. So that shows the sort of popularity and the difference in popularity of outdoor active recreation that people are interested in nowadays. And then we move on to Bike Florida in 1994. So this was the first year of Bike Florida. As you can see, you've got bicycles and you've got a rest stop and you've got people sitting outside and enjoying their adventure. And then I have a picture here of Bike Florida today. And the one big thing is you've got people and you've got bicycles and they're enjoying themselves and they're outside and there's the ocean in the background. But the one big difference between the first picture I showed of 1994 and the picture of today is the age. So you've got the same concept that's been going on for 25 years, but you have the exact same people that have been moving along with it. There really has been no integration or growth into a different demographic. And as I said before, our median age is 64, and most of our participants are mammals, middle-aged men in Lycra, or middle-aged women in Lycra. And so there hasn't been much equity, and there hasn't been really any age differences or other generations. This was something that participants were noticing as well, but there was also the reality that other generations really weren't interested in doing this kind of event. So once we had that big heart-to-heart with ourselves, we started looking to see if other organizations or companies had this experience. And if you look at Kodak is a very interesting company to look at, because Kodak actually had invented or was already onto the digital, had a digital camera already in 1975. And in the 1990s, it was still a huge brand. But it didn't think that anyone was going to want to go digital, so they just stuck with the hard copy. It was the same with Polaroid. They thought that nobody was wanting to go digital, and I know now that there's this like retro thing with Polaroid cameras where you can actually have one printed out, but it has both of those companies really suffered, and they used to be the absolute dominating forces in their industry. And this is something that I believe a lot of event tourists and bicycle event organizations don't really do, is they don't really look outside of the industry to see what other businesses and other companies are doing in their experiences, because even though we have different vehicles or different ways of bringing in income or different ways of serving our world, we also have very similar changes that go on. And I think it's very important for us to look at something like what happened to Kodak to keep in mind for what we are doing as Bike Florida, as a state, and as anyone else. And this goes on to the issue of change, which has been very hard for people, because again, cycling in Florida used to be this kind of counterculture misfit thing, and now it's become a lot more mainstream. So how does bicycle tourism and how does the positive impacts of bicycle tourism fit into all of this now? And you can't see all of what Grumpy Cat is saying here, but he's saying there's only two things I don't like: change and the way things are. And that really is something that's important to remember, is that markets are always changing, our demographics are always changing. And if we are going to continue to be relevant, and if we are going to continue to be of service and be of good to the world, then we need to know that there's always, it's never going to be the same, that we always need to be thinking outside the box and thinking about how we can do better to do what we do in the way that we do it. So then we started thinking, okay, so we've been doing bicycle tours, we're this nonprofit, the bicycle tour isn't really working, we've got to innovate. And that's when we really realized we needed to go through a strategic plan and really figure out what we're all about. And one interesting thing that when we were going through our strategic plan was really thinking about what business are we actually in? And so again, looking at other industries, Nike is not in the shoe business. It's in the athletic lifestyle business. I don't know if you know this, but it has the #1 health app in the world. So it's more than, they have shoes, but it's more than shoes. Tesla is not in the car business, it's in the electric mobility business. So not only is it selling cars, but it also is creating infrastructure for electric vehicles to get around the world. And then you go look at Red Bull. Red Bull doesn't just do energy drinks. Now it does I think it's the X Games, and they do all sorts of crazy outdoor adventure events, or they are always sponsoring people that go snowboarding and want to jump out of helicopters on cliffs and somehow not die. So if you look at these three, they are associated with certain things, but that's not the business that they're in. And that is a really, really important thing for us to know. And so that is how we came up with our mission, is when we really started thinking about it, really went through the strategic plan, and we realized about ourselves that our business is not so much in putting on a big week-long bicycle tour. Our business was to serve the state of Florida. And this is a very, very important distinction to make with helping us decide what we're going to do, and also helping Florida and hopefully other states figure out what they want to do and how they should or could approach tourism as a force for good. So our mission is to help Florida communities improve their economic health, bicycle infrastructure, and safety through bicycle tourism. So you could even, if you wanted, you could cut out the preposition through bicycle tourism, and we still have our mission there. Our vehicle is just bicycle tourism, but our primary goal is serving our state. And so we're thinking, okay, so we've got this new strategic plan. We know what we're about now. What exactly does that mean for us, and how can we take this exciting mission and go forth and do something amazing that we haven't really done before? Then we started looking again at different concepts of economic and positive impact of bicycle tourism that were outside of just tours. Of course, I'm sure many of you have heard of Dunedin. If not, it is the poster child for trail towns in the state of Florida. It was the first town in Florida to be designated as a trail town. I live about 3 miles from here, and I can tell you that on a Saturday or Sunday, if you are riding on the trail through Dunedin, you have to get off your bike and walk it because there are so many people. But prior to the trail being there, it had a 35% storefront vacancy and is now up to a 100% vacancy, 100% fully filled with shops and cafes, and there's a waiting list, and it's just amazing to see. And even in the 5 years that I have been here, the boom that Dunedin has gone through, it's just completely transformed. And so this is one of the best examples that we have so far in Florida of the impact of trails and bicycle tourism, but not necessarily a bicycle tour. If you look at our next one, we started looking at, hold on, I've lost my slide. We started looking at what infrastructure means and why people like infrastructure so much. And one of the things is because infrastructure makes you feel safe, right? So you're on a trail, you don't have to worry about cars, and if the trail is built well, it's enjoyable and you can get away from it all. And even though Dunedin isn't necessarily always quiet, the Pinellas Trail or other trails that we have in Florida, non-motorized trails, are often just wonderful experiences, because again, you can walk, or you can ride your bike, or you can run, and you have that feeling of safety, and the safety translates into enjoyment. This is one of the reasons why Bike Florida started thinking, okay, we know that people like to ride on roads, and the majority of the bicycle tours that we have done have been roads, and the majority of our participants are primarily road riders. But there is this change going on, and at this last tour that we did, we surveyed our participants and asked them, what is the thing that you look for most when you do a tour? And it really has changed from a long route to having a quiet or rural road to ride on. I believe that even these people that now say that they will never ever ride a trail, I believe that in the next 5 years or so, they will all be on trails. I know that I was that way. I would have refused to ride. I only rode on the road for many years, but now you will only find me on the trail. And that's because it's so much more enjoyable, because you feel safe. So we also looked at some examples of infrastructure that exists in other parts of the world. Be ready to be really jealous, but in Belgium, they have this insane network of beautiful trails that go across a lot of forests and wilderness, and the whole point of it is to connect people to nature through a bicycle path. And so this is a 10-meter tall treetop bicycle path that just it's like a curlicue that takes you up, and you are on top of a beautiful forest. And so then we looked, the next one that we looked at is in Utrecht. This is the largest bicycle parking lot. And this is another crazy thing, because this parking lot has 12,500 spots just for bikes. It has indoor ramps for access, and then even a digital system that will help you find your bike or find empty spaces. And the city is trying to boost capacity to 33,000 by 2000, well, by this year or even next year. And I point this out, so this isn't necessarily like a beautiful trail in the middle of nowhere, but having this facility in a city is something that also encourages tourism to to a city or to a town. So you don't always just have to have a trail, but if you've got parking facilities as well, then that makes your possibilities even greater. So then, taking that in mind, we have China, of all places. In Xiamen, they have built the world's longest elevated bike path. It has capacity for 2,000 bicycles, and it's you can rent bikes. And for rush hour, it has really relieved and eased a lot of traffic and congestion. Again, this city might not be a place that you would think would be a great place to ride your bike, but when you see that there are facilities like these, you might be someone that would consider renting a bike or going on an urban bike tour while you are there. And no one, I don't think people would really think about that unless infrastructure like this existed. Finally, we go back to Belgium, of course, and this is my favorite, is they have a trail, and the name of it is Cycling Through Water. It's a 3-meter wide cycling track, and you actually ride at water level. And it's a way for you to obviously ride your bike in serenity and to be able to see the nature from literally a bird's eye view, because there are tons of waterfowl and tons of just gorgeous nature all around you, and you can actually take the time to enjoy that, and you have that multi-sensory experience that you only have when you're on a bicycle. This is something that I believe, if you had anywhere, would attract a lot of people to come and ride. And I think all of these things that we've just gone through are excellent examples of infrastructure that can be built, that if a community invests in, that will bring in more and more tourists and have a greater impact than they ever thought could be possible through like a one-day event or a week-long tour. So then, kind of on that note, my most favorite bicycle tour I have ever done is not a week-long tour. It's not a tour in nature, but it was an urban bike ride I did in Havana with my husband. And in the period of 4 hours, we went to meet this world famous boxer. We went to a Santeria priest's home. We got to see the youth ballet development facility and got to watch these kids doing ballet that are one day going to be world famous. And it was the best way ever to learn about a city, but it was all on bicycle. And there really is no bike tour I've ever done that in any way even compares with that. So again, when people think about bicycle tourism, I think historically they're thinking about nature, and you've got your panniers and you're going to get on your tent and have this grand adventure. But bicycle tourism is also this. It's also a 1 to 4 to 5 hour bike ride around a city to get to know it from the perspective of a bike, because you can get places without having to walk, and you don't have to be in a car. So it's the best of both worlds. And so moving on, how does this again go to Florida? Well, obviously, we've got the Coast to Coast Connector and the Sun Trail. When this is completely finished and all the gaps are filled, I believe, or I know, that bicycle tourism is going to boom even more than it already is, because there will be a way for someone to ride 250 miles from St. Pete, Florida, all the way to Titusville without having to deal with any motorized traffic. That is huge. And then as part of that, there are more trails being built off of that to create this massive network that will just keeps expanding and expanding. And I know the towns that we work with and talk with, they are all so pumped about their trails. And actually the only negative things I hear is about the competition for funding, because they all want the funding and they all want it now. And they all believe that their community deserves it first over anyone else. And so it is a problem, because everybody needs money to do this, but I kind of think it's a good problem that people are so excited about making this happen and developing this network. And the reason these communities are, and the reason these city councils are, is not because they're into cycling, but it's because they see the money that comes with it. And that's something that's really important, again, that we've had to learn with Bike Florida when we are doing outreach, is we don't really go to a place from first perspective of riding a bicycle is amazing. We all know that, but mayor of some little town in the middle of nowhere may have never been on a bicycle in their lives and think that it's crazy. So when you come at it from a point of view of the economic impact, that's a great way to open doors. And then from there on, when they start seeing the experience that their residents have, then that starts changing their attitudes. And I don't think that's not really been done before in a lot of the bicycle tourism world. And but I am seeing that happen more and more. And I think that that's a crucial part to increasing bicycle tourism anywhere and increasing its positive impact on where it goes. And then we have how that all comes into our vision for Florida. And what this means is, we obviously, if you're in Florida, you know how beautiful it is, and we've got great weather, and everybody loves it. It's a great place to ride your bike. It's flat, it's scenic. But one of the issues, as we all know, is that Florida is still considered a very dangerous place to ride. I am very happy to say that we are in the top 10 of the most bicycle-friendly states in the US. We got that designation for 2019. But there is also the reputation that Bike Florida has for being a dangerous place, and we do have the highest amount of fatal accidents and sorry, not accidents, but crashes in the US, and it is a problem that we need to fix. And Bike Florida, we are a very small nonprofit, but our vision is of Florida as the premier cycling experience. I believe that with everybody working together, we can fix these issues that we're having. However, we've got to think outside the box a bit. There are 900 people that move to Florida a day. When you really, really stop back and think about that, the traffic implications are enormous and to be honest, overwhelming. We can still definitely advocate for bicyclists as vehicles and bicycle safety. However, if we want to have more people ride bicycles, if we want to increase that economic impact, we just need to get people on bikes and to enjoy it and see what it's like. And then they can become advocates themselves. So what I'm saying is the development of trails and the development of safe, enjoyable places for people to ride in our state is crucial to us being able to get people riding during this insane population growth. So with all that, Bike Florida, we came up with our plan. So plan A, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put our spring tour on hold so that we can get started on all these programs. We're going to do community outreach and collaboration, which has been great. We are going to host the first annual Florida Bicycle Tourism Conference, and we are producing 3 one-day cycling events, and we're going to launch what we call the directory, which is a database of bicycle organizations that I'll get to in a moment. We're launching into 2020, really, really excited about this. And a lot of the things were going right ahead. So absolutely no problems, and just getting plans and building partnerships and reaching out to various people. But as always, things don't necessarily go according to your first plan. So we realized that though we had a good foundation in place, we still needed to maybe go to plan B and maybe just do a little bit of improvisation. So we adapted this directory, this database, so that it went from something more that was a revenue generator for us, but again, more in line with our mission of bringing communities together and helping communities through bicycle tourism by making a database for people to be able to upload information about their organization so that tourists or similar like-minded organizations in their state in Florida can find each other. So for example, you would have a bike club would be in there. And then let's say there's someone who's coming to Sarasota for the first time and they want to go ride a bike, they want to go ride with a bicycle club. Well, it would connect them with the Friends of the Legacy Trail if that's what they're looking for. So it's a user-friendly way to find these various organizations so that you're not having to just scour Google or any other search engines that don't really hone in on what you're wanting to do. The other part of that we decided to bring in to make the database even more useful is a tourism map. And this is an interactive map that we are building county by county in the state, and it's a very long ongoing project that we've just started. And I don't know, V, if you can click on the link that says Begin Tourism Map, but we may be able to. Oh yes, wonderful. So this is the very, very, very rough draft of what we've got. And you will see that you've got, and I did this just for the city of Titusville for we were doing our bicycle tourism conference with them. But what we are doing is taking participating businesses and organizations and we are putting in their geolocations. We are then putting in routes, popular routes in that area. And what they do is they show you where you can ride a bicycle on a route. And then it also shows you what amenities are close by to that. So you can find beer, you can find food, you can find places to stay. And this is something that we will be doing statewide. And we are just starting this as just a small group of people. We are looking for volunteers if anyone is interested in helping us get all this data in. But this is something that we are doing as a service to the state. When we get the information, we will then be adapting it to look pretty and more refined and something that is even more user-friendly for a visitor. So we're very, very excited about this. So the database that we've got is connecting directly into this map. So we'll have both resources, but the idea for the map is for any visitor to Florida to be able to find the place that they are riding their bicycle and be able to plan their trip without the need of a tour guide or the need of a tour operator or even needing to time their trip around when a bicycle tour is taking place. Because we know that is the future, and that's also the thing that that will keep people coming back little by little, just a steady stream of impact. So that was our plan B. Things were going great. We were coming up on the conference. We were partnering with the city of Titusville and St. John's River to Sea Loop Alliance for our first Florida Bicycle Tourism Conference. I was going to be speaking at this symposium. Everything was great, all in line. And then we had the end of the world / coronavirus hit all of us, the entire world. And so this pandemic, as I'm sure all of you have had this conversation with everybody all the time for the last 2-3 weeks, this has thrown everything into the air. It's upset what everybody is doing, and especially for those of us in the tourism industry. Last week I had to sit down and really try to figure out how is Bike Florida going to last not only till the end of the year, but for the next 2 or 3 months. And I know that a lot of us have been having those same questions, and it's very difficult and very stressful. So that is why I kind of feel like we're all in this situation where we're all asking for help, but we're all falling off the cliff ourselves. So it's good for us to have this camaraderie, but we are, especially in the tourism, we are all in a tough spot. The other part is nonprofits and small businesses and any other organization. We're all just in a very, very rough spot right now. A lot of people don't know what to do. And the numbers are really not very happy either, because they are projecting a loss of 6 million travel-related jobs by the end of April. And when you think about that, that is really, really scary. And then a loss of $410 billion by the end of April from travel spending decrease, double of employment rate, and all of these figures are in relation to the travel industry. So for those of us that do tourism and travel and adventure, that is something that we definitely need to be aware of, and something that we need to try to figure out how we're going to respond to that, so that we can survive and still be around whenever we're able to move on. So then our plan A, plan B aren't really working. So now we, Bike Florida, we are on plan C, as I'm sure a lot of you are, because that is what we call real life. But we were, and actually I had a board meeting last night, and so these are very new slides to me, but we had a board meeting last night talking about what this real life plan was going to look like for our organization. And we started saying, well, we're all quarantined, everybody has to work from home. So what does that mean for us, or how could we take advantage of that? So Envy, if you just click the button. Yes, okay. So if people are quarantined and have nothing to do, this means you've got volunteers to help you. So you've got more volunteer time, and you've got that work project you've always wanted to get done, or a project around the home that you've always wanted to get done. So there's a positive thing actually about this, a silver lining, we'll say, about this situation that we're in. So then the next thing that we thought about is you get to work from home again, which means you don't have to wear pants to work. Now, if you're having a video meeting, you do need to make sure you're wearing pants if you're going to stand up, but otherwise nobody needs to know. I've been working from home for about 10 years, and that is the best thing ever about working from home. So take advantage of it and live the dream while you're able. So and then the other things we started thinking about were how this will impact the future of tourism. So because we can't travel, we can't cross borders, nations are going to be turning inwards, I believe, and we're already in an age of xenophobia. And I think that this might even compound this even more, but there will just be a general fear of travel. So what does that do for us? Well, that creates something that we like to call microtourism. I'm not sure, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this concept, but essentially microtourism would be me getting on my bike and riding on the trail from Clearwater to Dunedin and having a cup of coffee in Dunedin. So that is me taking money, my money from Clearwater, and spending it in a different town. So it's outside money going into that town, but I haven't traveled very far. So that's microtourism. So when you think about this, when things start returning back to semi-normal, microtourism is a thing that all of us that work with trails or with outdoor recreation is a thing that we can really be part of. So then the next thing that next item that we realized was, obviously there is a recession. I mean, you can't have all these people losing their jobs and this impact on the economy, all of this loss, without there being a recession. And it's going to be horrifically tough on all of us. But the silver lining of recession or spending or less expendable money is, again, microtourism. You, instead of getting the kids and going to Disneyland or Disney World or Orlando Studios, you may now want to get on your bicycles and just go on a ride on a trail. So this is yet another time that we can be thinking of how to take advantage of providing things for people to do that they really wouldn't have done before. And that comes into a change in human behavior. Again, when we're quarantined and we're isolated, there are new things that come out of that. There's adaptation, there's innovation. And just one little example, in Florida, we have seen just a huge boom of people out on trails since this quarantine has been in, and more than ever. And the MPO Forward Pinellas was telling me just yesterday that there has been an increase in 62% of usage of the Pinellas Trail since March. And that is all because these people are quarantined and they just want to get out and do something. They can't go to the gym, they can't go to the bars, so they're going to do something, and this is the release. this is the time that we as Bike Florida or others who work with trails and trail tourism, we need to take advantage of this, and we need to sit down and think, what can we do to really engage with this whole new group of people that are discovering the trails, and how can we keep that going? And yet again, that's another example of microtourism that when we return to the so-called new normal, we can keep that energy going and keep that interest going in the trails. And so, and then that finally comes to what we are calling the new normal. We are right now, again, we are in this stage of absolute flux. Nobody knows from one day to the next what's going to be happening. None of us know, to be honest, if we're still going to exist within the next 6 months. And it's very, very scary. However, I believe that if we think about, instead of a plan A, plan B, but we think about a real life plan, and we take the time to talk to our cohorts and our peers and collaborate and see what crazy ideas come out, then I believe that we will be able to be ready to meet the needs of this new normal. And so whatever it is, my message is today is we just need to be ready. And I believe that bicycle tourism, I believe that development and supportive trails, all of these things will be one of the key vehicles in kicking off our economy whenever we are able to return back to business. And so that's where Bike Florida is on its journey at the moment, and we will be on a plan D, E, F at some point, but just going along with our real life plan. And I just want to thank you for having me today. And if you have any questions or want to follow up with me, or just want to chat or tell me why everything I've said here is wrong, feel free to send me an email or call me or shoot me a text. Love to talk to you. If any of you organizations would like to be part of our directory or on our map, please reach out to me, and we'll get you on there, and we'll get that started so that we can get everyone involved. And again, thank you very much. Thank you, V, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Joy. You made some really great points. Thank you. I really also love the throwbacks and inspiration. Really liked that. So thank you all for joining us today. If you are able to, please join the conversation. We will be continuing this conversation on Twitter. Joy has shared her handle with us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to pull up that slide right now. So I believe the handle was at Joy Hancock _7. 07. So make sure you tweet her after this session with any of your comments, discussion, questions, what have you. And don't forget to hashtag Greenway Summit to make sure that we can involve you in the conversation. Thanks again, Joy. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you soon.